Name's James, Secret Service. Or at least I used to be. I was in the White House when the world ended. Now the president's a zombie with no arms or jaw, chained to my hip, hauling my gear like a damn pack mule. D.C. is gone. Atlanta's the last shot. And I'm not dying in this city. Not today. Chapter 1. The Fall of the House Name's James. Secret Service, 36 years old. 11 years deep in the most dangerous job in the country. And somehow none of that prepared me for the White House going to hell in a day. 1 minute I'm sipping cold coffee in the East Wing. The next I'm unloading my Glock into a janitor chewing on a senator's face. It started around 6:45 a.m. when the West Wing went radio silent. That never happens. I was on rotation with Agent Morris. Solid guy, new baby, never missed a beat. We made our way down to the press briefing room, and that's when we saw it. Blood trails, shoe prints dragging through it, and then a screech that didn't sound human. First zombie I ever shot was a tour guide. She rushed us with her mouth open wide, teeth stained red. Morris hesitated, I didn't. One shot to the head dropped her. Her body smacked the marble floor so hard it echoed, and that's when 4 more came barreling through the corridor like a damn stampede. We fell back fast, guns hot. I nailed one in the eye socket, another in the jaw. It slowed them but didn't stop them. Morris clipped one in the knee. It kept crawling toward us like a rabid dog. Blood sprayed across portraits of Roosevelt. I radioed backup static. Nobody was coming. We ducked into the Roosevelt room, flipped over the table, and used it as cover. 2 zombies followed us in, one crawling with no legs. Morris went for the head, slipped on blood, and the thing grabbed his ankle. I popped it twice, then yanked Morris back to his feet. No bite lucky. The place was falling. Sirens were going off, alarms flashing red, but nobody human was responding. We made our way toward the Situation Room. On the way I had to drop a Secret Service vet. Eyes gone, half a face missing, still in uniform. He recognized me, I swear it. Just for a second. Then I ended it. Inside the Situation Room chaos. 4 aides, 2 Marines, 1 colonel, all freaking out. 1 aide had been bitten but was hiding it. I saw the blood dripping from her sleeve. I didn't say a word, no time. Everyone kept yelling, asking about the president. I said I'd go, no one else stepped up. I hit the West Wing solo, zombies everywhere now. I moved room to room like a ghost, silent and deadly. Dropped 5 more between the colonnade and the cabinet room. I kicked open the door to the Oval Office and found him. The president slumped against the resolute desk. Eyes red, breathing heavy. "They bit me, James," he said, coughing blood. "But I'm not leaving this house." I tied him down to the couch with curtain cords, barricaded the door, and waited. It took 20 minutes, then he turned. Eyes milky, skin gray, still wearing his suit. Still had that red tie on. I did what had to be done. Took his arms and jaw. Couldn't risk him scratching or biting me. Hooked a chain around his neck. Strapped a pack of supplies to his back. It was messed up, but it worked. He was slow and useless, but I could load him up with gear and move without carrying a thing. As I left the Oval, 2 more zombies blocked my path. They came fast. I emptied the mag and my Glock headshots clean. Blood sprayed the presidential seal on the carpet. More were coming. I ran through the halls, his zombified shell dragging behind me like a leashed pit bull with a broken jaw. I burst into the rose garden. The sun was just rising. Bodies everywhere, agents torn in half. 1 Marine still alive, barely, crawled toward me, eyes pleading. I ended it quickly, mercy. Then a zombie leapt from the bushes. I sidestepped, grabbed a broken shovel from the grass, and impaled it through the eye. Now I'm out, heading for the gates. D.C. is burning. Helicopters down, tanks abandoned. Smoke rising over the Washington Monument like a funeral pyre. I don't know what the hell is happening across the country. But I know one thing. Atlanta is the only place left. I've got my Glock, 1 full clip, a jawless presidential zombie for a pack mule, and a long road ahead. And God help whatever gets in my way. I didn't make it far from the West Wing before the staccato crack of automatic gunfire spun me around. The air was thick with smoke and the distant screams of the dying. Out on Pennsylvania Avenue, 2 soldiers were pinned down behind a flipped Humvee, unloading their rifles at a swarm trying to breach the White House fence. The president, jawless, armless, snarling, was still chained to me, stumbling behind like a mangy pack mule. His backpack clinked with supplies as I ran. I didn't have time to weigh the odds. I darted across the cracked asphalt, cutting behind a burning police cruiser. my cig barking in tight bursts. 3 zombies dropped, a 4th lunged, and I met it with my boot, crushing its face into the pavement. "Secret Service!" I shouted as I slid beside the soldiers. "You boys still breathing?" The older one, his left sleeve soaked with blood, nodded, barely. "Lost comms an hour ago. Thought we were the last ones." "Not yet," I said, yanking the president into cover. He growled through his open throat. The younger soldier stared at him in disbelief. "Is that?" he asked. "Was he's useful now?" I tugged the chain tighter. "We're heading to the underground tunnel, Smithsonian route." The older soldier winced, peeking through the busted Humvee window. "That tunnel's probably sealed. We won't know until we try," I said. "How many mags you got?" 2 partials between us, make 'em count." A chorus of moans rose as more of the infected shuffled into view. Dozens of them. Some still in Capitol Police uniforms, others in suits and business attire. One in a bloodied Eagles jersey dragged a snapped leg behind him. One had a stroller still strapped to its back. "We fall back to the Metro bus," I ordered. The bus had tipped sideways into a fountain during the initial chaos. We reached it fast, pushing through a gap in the emergency hatch as the horde caught our scent. Inside, we kicked debris and bodies aside, slamming the door behind us. I shoved the president under a row of seats and piled duffel bags around him like sandbags. The infected were on us fast. Their fists pounded the windows, blood smearing across the glass. One cracked the windshield with its forehead. The old soldier muttered a prayer while I jammed a chair leg into the front door handle. "We hold this for 3 minutes," I said, checking my mag. "Then we run for the tunnel." The young one looked out the broken side window. 3 minutes, we won't make it 30 seconds. Then shoot straighter." We braced ourselves. I cracked the glass just enough to get a clean line of sight and popped 3 more walkers. The recoil felt sharper than usual, maybe adrenaline. One of them had no eyes, just hollow sockets leaking black pus. Another wore a Smithsonian visitor badge still clipped to its collar. A reminder of how fast the world had turned. The pounding got louder. A zombie on the roof started tearing into the emergency hatch above us. I climbed up on the back seat and drove my knife through the rubber seal. Blood splattered as it fell backward with a wet thud. They were learning, getting faster. "Time's up!" I yelled. "Move!" We bailed out the side, ducking between shattered barriers and tipped newspaper boxes. Headlines fluttered in the wind. "Outbreak in D.C., shelter in place." Too late for that now. We cut through Lafayette Park. Trees were scorched. A fire hydrant gushed, flooding the ground in red-tinted puddles. I fired behind me, catching one of the infected in the chin, then another through the cheekbone. The soldiers covered our flanks tight and trained. Good, we might just make it. As we neared the tunnel entrance, a rusted steel door hidden behind a locked maintenance gate, an explosion rocked the street. A military chopper slammed into the National Mall, fire erupting from its belly. The blast wave hurled us forward, glass and concrete raining down. My ears rang, my vision blurred. The older soldier was screaming, pinned. His leg caught under a snapped flagpole. A zombie with melted flesh dragged itself toward him, jaw gnashing. I rushed it, planted my boot on its neck, and emptied a round into its skull. Then I tried to free the soldier. Blood poured from his mouth. "Leave me," he gasped. "Take him and go." "No. You want us all dead?" The younger one tugged at my vest. "James, we don't have time." I let go, we ran. Inside the tunnel, the air turned cold. Musty. The president's chain scraped along the floor behind us. We locked the gate as the moans echoed on the other side. Behind us, the older soldier fired his last 3 shots. Then silence. We were in the dark now. And the real hell was just beginning. The air in the tunnel stank of mold, rust, and blood. I slammed the maintenance gate shut behind us and locked it with a steel rod I found leaning against the wall. The sound of the lock clicking echoed like gunfire in the silence. The young soldier, Rodriguez, bent over, hands on his knees, gasping. "You good?" I asked, tugging the president's chain. He stumbled behind me, arms gone, jaw swinging open uselessly as he groaned like a broken wind chime. The bags strapped to him jingled with every step. Rodriguez nodded. "I'm good. Just, shit, that was close. Too close." We descended into darkness, flashlights barely cutting through the thick air. This tunnel hadn't been used in decades. Cobwebs clung to every corner. Pipes lined the ceiling, some dripping steadily. The walls were old concrete, cracked and streaked with water damage. Every few feet, faded civil defense signs reminded us this was once a fallout shelter. Now it was just a crypt with a long hallway. I walked ahead, rifle up. The president groaned again. I tugged his chain. "Shut up before I make you," I muttered. We crept forward for about a quarter mile. My boots echoed with every step. Rodriguez whispered behind me, "Where does this come out again?" "Underneath the Smithsonian. If it's not collapsed." We reached a junction. The corridor split into two. One direction led deeper into the city's emergency infrastructure, the other toward a sealed vault door. I pressed my ear against the vault. Nothing, no moans, no breathing. Rodriguez covered me as I spun the ancient wheel lock. It groaned, dust bursting from the hinges. The door opened inward with a sharp creak. I raised my rifle. Inside was pitch black. I stepped through first, sweeping left to right with the beam. Dust swirled in the air. Rows of crates, emergency rations, cots folded against the wall, and bodies. Dozens of corpses laid out neatly. Soldiers, maybe. No signs of violence, and like they just never woke up. "Gas leak," Rodriguez said, covering his mouth. "Could be, or something worse." Suddenly, behind us, banging. Rodriguez spun around. "They're at the gate." "How many?" "Can't tell, but it ain't just one." We rushed to the far end of the room. There was another tunnel exit, sealed by a blast door with an electronic panel. "Figures," I muttered. "This one needs power." Rodriguez checked the fuse box. "There's a crank generator on the side." "Do it." He started turning the crank. The panel lit up in faint flickering red. The keypad glowed. I started typing the emergency override. I still remembered the codes from the old drills. Come on," I hissed. Rodriguez stopped cranking. "It's charging." That's when the vault door burst open. 3 zombies tumbled inside. A man in a general's uniform, a janitor, and a half-melted creature whose skin peeled off with every step. I fired 2 quick rounds, dropped the first 2. The third lunged, shrieking. Rodriguez tackled it with the butt of his rifle. "Go!" he yelled. The panel turned green. I slammed my hand on the door release. It hissed open and cold morning air blasted in. I dragged the president through first, then turned to grab Rodriguez. He was still fighting the melted one. It clung to him, chewing at his vest straps. I aimed 1 clean shot to the back of its head. It slumped. Rodriguez collapsed, coughing. We pulled him out and sealed the blast door shut behind us. The groaning faded as the lock hissed. We were in the subway system now. Tracks stretched into the darkness in both directions. Rusted train cars sat crooked on the rails. Graffiti covered the walls. Blood smeared across a half-broken advertisement for the Air and Space Museum. "Which way?" Rodriguez asked. I checked the map on the wall. Southwest, toward L'Enfant Plaza. We followed this until we hit the next emergency exit. A growl echoed down the tunnel. Then another, then dozens. I loaded a fresh mag, grabbed the president's chain, and nodded forward. Time to move. We ran deeper into the belly of DCI, with hell chasing close behind. The tunnel lit up with flickers of muzzle flash and flashlight beams bouncing off damp steel. I was leading us down the left side of the subway tracks, the president's limp zombie frame dragging behind me like luggage on a leash, Rodriguez limping close with his rifle ready. Behind us they were coming, a wall of rot bone and teeth. Every step echoed with death. "They're gaining," Rodriguez yelled. "No shit." I fired a burst over my shoulder, catching one of them in the throat. It stumbled into another and tripped them both up, but 10 more were right behind. A broken subway car sat ahead, tilted off its track and leaning into the tunnel wall like a wounded animal. Its windows were shattered. Dried blood streaked across its roof. Smoke drifted from a fire still burning inside. "This way," I shouted. We jumped up onto the car's platform edge, then climbed through the emergency window. I pulled the president's leash and he moaned as he thudded through the frame. Rodriguez dropped in behind us, gasping. Inside was hell, bodies everywhere. Riders who never got off. Some gnawed, some just slumped with eyes open wide, frozen in terror. I kept my light low. We stepped over a woman with half her face missing, and a security guard with a rusted pistol still gripped in his dead fingers. "Keep moving," I said. Rodriguez looked back. "You think they'll follow us in here?" I didn't answer. I knew they would. We made it to the front of the car. The windshield was cracked but intact. Beyond it, the tunnel curved hard to the right. I kicked open the side door, hopped out, and helped Rodriguez and our chained cargo down. That's when the moans came again, but closer now. A zombie dropped from the subway car roof and landed 2 feet from me. I instinctively jammed my rifle into its mouth and fired. Bone fragments sprayed across my cheek. 2 more leapt from the tunnel shadows behind us. Rodriguez went full auto, mowing them down before they got close. "I'm out," he yelled, tossing the empty mag. I handed him one of mine, but it was my last. The president groaned again. I turned and shoved him toward the tunnel wall. "You want to help, dead man? Go take one for the team." He hit the ground and snarled. One of the faster zombies saw him and lunged. I watched with a sick mix of relief and revulsion as the undead president was tackled and bit in the shoulder. He didn't feel it, obviously, but the attacker got tangled in his chains. I used the moment to shoot them both. "Keep moving," I barked. We passed through a tight maintenance crawl space barely wide enough for our shoulders. On the other side, the tunnel opened into a flooded platform. Abandoned, dark, silent, just us and whatever watched from the shadows. The walls were covered in vines, not natural ones. Fleshy but wet. Almost breathing, the smell was rancid. "What the hell is this?" Rodriguez muttered. "No idea," I said, "and I don't want to find out." A loud screech cut through the air, not human, not animal. It echoed from the tunnel above. "I don't like that," Rodriguez whispered. "Me neither." Then came the thunder. Footsteps, claws, something big. It slammed into the station wall, then disappeared again. I raised my rifle. Whatever it wasn't like the others. A light sparked to our left, a dim red glow above a doorway labeled Maintenance Exit, L'Enfant Plaza. "There!" I shouted. We sprinted. Behind us, the screeching got louder. I turned just as something massive burst from the ceiling tiles. At least 7 feet tall, bloated, skin stretched thin like wet leather. Its mouth unhinged like a snake's. Rodriguez fired first. I joined in, both of us unloading every last round. The thing stumbled and then lunged. I grabbed the president's chain and swung him like a sandbag, knocking the creature to the side just enough to slip past it. Rodriguez dove through the door and yanked it open. I followed, pulling the undead mule behind me. We slammed the door shut, locking it with a fire extinguisher jammed through the handle. The creature shrieked behind it. The walls vibrated. We didn't wait around. Up the stairs. 1 flight, 2, a door. Daylight. We emerged into the city, smoke rising from buildings, sirens echoing in the distance, the Capitol dome silhouetted against a pale dawn sky. "Still alive," I muttered. Rodriguez spit on the ground, barely. We had a long way to go, but at least we weren't dead yet. We stepped into the morning light like moles crawling out of the dirt. The sky was a bruised blend of gray and gold, the sun trying to push through smoke that poured from every direction. Helicopters long fallen still smoldered in the distance, their blades twisted like dying spider legs. We stood on the backside of L'Enfant Plaza. From here, you could see the Capitol in the distance, but it didn't look like a symbol of freedom anymore. It looked like a mausoleum. Rodriguez adjusted his vest and checked his pistol. "Where now?" I pointed past the barricaded street. "Capitol Hill. There's a checkpoint under the rotunda." "Might still be supplies, weapons, radios, maybe even survivors. You sure?" "No, but we're out of options." The president's body groaned behind us as he dragged the bags of ammo and rations like a zombie mule. His eyes twitched, still undead. Still useful. We made it to Independence Avenue. The street was choked with abandoned cars, piles of bodies, and barricades toppled over. Dried blood painted the sidewalks. A half-eaten soldier leaned against a lamppost with his guts hanging out like spilled spaghetti. I crouched near a parked Humvee. We go slow. "No loud shots unless we have to." Rodriguez nodded. The first screamer came from behind a newspaper stand. Its body was rail-thin, almost skeletal, but fast. It darted out like a blur, howling with a cracked jaw. I grabbed the president by the chain and yanked him into its path. The zombie lunged for the president and got caught on his gear. Rodriguez ran up and fired 2 clean shots into its skull. "That counts as teamwork," he muttered. We pushed forward through a grocery store with shattered windows. Inside was a massacre. Shelves were overturned. Blood smeared across cereal boxes and bodies hung over shopping carts. One of them stirred. I raised my rifle. It was a kid, maybe 13. Not bitten, not a zombie, just shaking, hiding under a display of canned beans. "Rodriguez," I whispered. He walked over slowly. "Hey, you okay?" The kid nodded, wide-eyed. They were my parents." I looked down. A man and woman, arms around each other. Bullet holes in both their heads. Probably turned and someone made the call. "What's your name?" "Leo." "You got a weapon?" He showed us a little kitchen knife with dried blood on it. Rodriguez sighed. "You stick with us, Leo. Stay quiet, stay close. We gave him a pistol from one of the fallen guards and moved out. 2 blocks from the Capitol, the ambush hit. A herd, not just 5 or 10, 50 maybe more. They poured from the alleys and behind burning buses like ants from a nest. I counted at least 3 different types: fast runners, big bloaters, and the regular staggerers. "Form a line," I shouted. We crouched behind a flipped ambulance. Rodriguez fired in bursts. I went full auto, dropping bodies as they rushed the street. The president stood like a silent meat shield, soaking up attention. Even Leo took a few shots, his hands shaking. When they got too close, I pulled my machete. Rodriguez emptied his mag and went to his combat knife. It was chaos. Blood flying, teeth snapping, boots kicking skulls in. A bloater charged me. I dove to the ground, slid under its swing, and rammed my blade into its gut. It exploded with rotten gas, sending me sprawling backward, coughing. Rodriguez pulled me up. "We're getting swarmed." Back to the tunnel under the Senate building. We sprinted. Leo tripped. I spun around, grabbed his collar, and dragged him up. The herd followed. I led us down into a side stairwell. The doors at the base were dented but open. We sealed them with a steel bar and caught our breath inside the service hallway. Dead quiet. Just the hum of dying fluorescent lights and the echo of our breathing. Leo collapsed in the corner. I thought we were dead. Rodriguez sat beside him, wiping blood off his blade. "You fought like hell." I leaned against the wall. "This city ain't done with us yet." From the map on the wall, we were beneath the Capitol Visitor Center. If we pushed through the next 2 corridors, we'd reach the emergency bunkers. I checked my rifle, only 1 mag left. Rodriguez's hands trembled slightly. "You think we're the only ones left?" I looked at the president, his jawless face twitching, his body covered in muck, chains rattling gently as he swayed like a ghost. "Not by a long shot." I pulled the chain tight and started walking. "Let's go. Atlanta's still a long way off." The Capitol tunnels were colder than I expected. No matter how much blood or fire was above us, down here it felt like the dead had already claimed the air. Silent, still, damp. Our boots echoed against polished marble and old tile as we crept past forgotten offices and blast doors. I held my rifle tight. Rodriguez kept watch over Leo, who was finally starting to move like someone who understood death. The president trailed behind, arms twitching, chains scraping the floor. We passed the crypt beneath the rotunda, the place where Washington was supposed to be buried. Fitting. Felt like the dead were watching us from the walls themselves. "Watch that hallway," I said. Rodriguez swept his light across the junction. Clear. We moved past a security checkpoint. Overturned chairs, riot gear, a half-eaten Capitol cop in a Kevlar vest with a nameplate still attached. I reached down, unclipped his sidearm, and tucked it into Leo's waistband. "You hesitate out there again, you'll be like him," I said. Leo just nodded. We reached the emergency bunker access. 2 steel doors, 1 busted halfway open. Blood smeared the keypad like someone tried to punch in the code while being eaten alive. I shoved it, wouldn't budge. Rodriguez stepped up. "I'll pry you cover." As he worked his crowbar between the frame and the door, the air changed. I smelled them before I heard them. Rot mold, copper. Then came the scratching. I swung the rifle up just as 3 of them rounded the far corridor. 1 dragging a half-chewed leg, the other 2 sprinting on all 4s like dogs on meth. "Contact!" I opened fire. First one dropped. Second caught 2 rounds in the chest and kept coming. Rodriguez got the door halfway. "Move, move, move." I shoved Leo inside, yanked the chain to pull the president through. He grunted like some undead ox. The 3rd zombie leapt. Its hands caught the frame as I slammed the door. Its head got stuck between the steel plates, snapping and snarling inches from my face. I grabbed the crowbar from Rodriguez and bashed its skull until it stopped twitching. Inside, the bunker was pitch black. I flipped my tack light on. Rows of cots, medical lockers, food storage, enough supplies for maybe 10 people, if they were still alive. "Secure the perimeter," I said. Rodriguez found a battery lantern and flipped it on. Yellow light filled the room, revealing 2 corpses near the back. Soldiers. Self-inflicted shots to the temple. Better than turning, I guess. "I'll take it," Rodriguez muttered, grabbing one of their rifles. Better than what I had. Leo sat against the wall, breathing heavy. "You're doing good, kid," I said. "I'm scared." "Good, scared keeps you alive." Then the bunker started to shake. It was subtle at first. Dust drifting from the ceiling. Then, boom! Something slammed into the outside blast door. They found us, Rodriguez growled. No way out. There's a ladder in the far corner. Emergency roof access, I turned to the kid. Climb now, don't stop. What about you? We'll hold them. Leo scrambled up the ladder. I turned to the undead president. You ready to carry your weight? He groaned. I yanked his chain and positioned him by the door. When it broke open, he'd be the first thing they saw. Rodriguez crouched near the exit, rifle steady. I took the opposite side, eyes locked on the dented door. Crash. Another hit. Then it caved. The horde poured in. The president charged first, surprisingly fast. He barreled into two runners, dragging them down. That bought us 2 seconds. Rodriguez laid down cover fire. Go! I took the shot, 3 more down. Blood sprayed the walls, bone shattered. Rodriguez took a bite to the arm but jammed his knife into the attacker's temple before it could tear him open. We were losing. Up the ladder. Rodriguez didn't argue. We climbed fast, hands slipping on rust and sweat. Below, the bunker filled with screams. Leo reached the top and kicked open the roof hatch. Daylight. The Capitol dome rose behind us, smoke curling around its edges like the nation itself was on fire. I dragged the president's chain behind me. He snarled, eyes milky, blood dripping from his jawless face. Rodriguez collapsed on the roof. We made it, for now, I said. In the distance, Pennsylvania Avenue stretched out like a war zone. Cars burning, buildings crumbling, and shadows moving through every alley. We weren't safe, but we were alive. For now. We crossed the rooftop of the Capitol as quietly as we could. A sniper's nest had been set up on the western corner. A .50 cal still mounted, the barrel bent from heat, and blood pooled beneath it. Whoever manned it must have gone down fighting. They didn't leave much behind but shell casings and the smell of burned powder. Where now? Rodriguez asked, pressing his hand to the bandaged bite on his arm. I scanned the skyline, Pennsylvania Avenue. If we cut through, we can reach the Secret Service field station by the National Archives. Might have transportation or evac info. Leo looked at the president, who groaned softly and dragged his feet across gravel. You sure we gotta keep him? He's carrying most of our supplies, I said, not looking back, and he's useful bait. We climbed down a fire escape and landed in the alley behind a cafe-turned-charnel house. Tables were overturned, dishes shattered, and a pair of reanimated diners sat motionless, jaws twitching but bodies still. I stepped past them carefully. Rodriguez pushed the exit door open with his boot. Out front's Pennsylvania Ave. I peeked around the corner. The street was a battlefield. A school bus was jackknifed across the intersection. A burning National Guard truck lay on its side, and the White House loomed in the distance like a cursed castle. Zombie silhouettes milled in the smoke, some dragged chains. Others tore at bodies still fresh. We stuck to the shadows. Rodriguez limped, slowing us down, but we didn't say it out loud. Leo kept glancing at him. When we passed the Willard Hotel, I stopped. Inside, through the shattered glass, I saw something move. I signaled to halt. 3 in the lobby, I whispered. Could be civilians. Rodriguez checked his sidearm, or worse. We crept inside, the chandeliers had fallen. A grand piano was flipped onto its side, keys stained red. I heard crying. Then I saw her, a woman maybe in her 30s with a torn business suit and an axe in hand. 2 teens stood behind her, both holding metal poles. We're not infected, I called softly. She raised her weapon. Neither are we. You armed? Yes, and moving. We're holed up here, safe for now. Not for long, I said. You seen how bad it is out there? She nodded. Rodriguez coughed. We got a place. An extraction point, she looked doubtful. Everyone says that, then they die. I looked her in the eye. We have food, ammo. And him. I pointed to the president, who stood growling at a column like it insulted him. She flinched. Yeah, I interrupted, was. He's useful now. She hesitated, then lowered the axe. Name's Tasha. That's Brian and Eli. We're moving toward archives, I said. Stick with us or stay and rot. Tasha nodded. Let's go. We exited through a side door and slipped onto the street. The group kept tight, weapons raised, nerves twitching. That's when the herd hit us. A scream cut the air. A pack of runners, maybe 15 deep, burst from a jewelry store. Fast, loud, hungry. Contact left, I roared. We opened fire. Shells hit the pavement. I saw Leo drop 2 before his gun clicked empty. Tasha swung her axe with terrifying force, caving in skulls. Rodriguez dropped to one knee and nailed a bloater through the eye. One got too close and tore into Eli's arm. Blood sprayed. No, Brian screamed. I grabbed Eli and yanked him back. Rodriguez dropped the zombie with 2 rounds, but it was too late. Eli was bit. I didn't feel it, he stammered, eyes wide. Tasha went pale. No, not you. We pulled back into the alley. The fight echoed through the streets as more undead started toward the sound. Can we cut it off? Leo asked, panicked. It's too late, I said. Tasha looked at Eli, eyes welling. He's my son, I nodded once. Yours to do. She held him tight, then raised the axe. We didn't look back when it hit. Brian didn't speak again. We moved faster now, like the grief lit fire in our feet. At the archives, the outer doors were breached, but the sublevels were holding. A keypad glowed red beside a steel blast door. I typed in the code from memory. Click. The door opened to a narrow corridor lit by red emergency lights. Rodriguez slumped inside. We hold up here tonight. I nodded. Then we move again. The president dropped the bags and sat in a corner, groaning like he had a headache. Leo leaned against a wall and wiped blood off his hands. Tasha stared blankly at the floor. I checked my rifle. Still a long way to Atlanta. I didn't sleep, none of us did. Down in the archives sublevel, the flickering red lights made it feel more like a tomb than a bunker. The walls were sweating, concrete dripping. You'd think the silence would have helped, but when the whole damn world's gone to hell, silence is just a setup for something worse. Rodriguez sat slouched with a fever. His arm was pale where the bite peeked out beneath gauze. He tried to stay upright, mumbling about Fort Belvoir, but I saw it in his eyes. The infection was crawling. Leo sat across from me, sharpening a blade he pulled off a fallen soldier. Kid had a mean look in his eye now. Not scared, just distant, like the grief had hollowed him out. Tasha stood by the vault door, arms crossed, axe stained and drying. I checked my rifle again. Every few minutes, the president, still chained, still jawless, would let out a low groan and tug at the bags on his back. I kept the chain wrapped around my forearm like a leash. We move at dawn, I muttered. Rodriguez coughed. I won't make it. You will. No, he said, sitting up straight, forcing a grin. You don't get it, James. I can't risk turning around you or them. I looked at him. Don't say it. He unbuckled his vest, pulled out a folded envelope and slid it across the floor. For my sister in Delaware. If you make it, I didn't take it. You'll make it, he smiled once, then leaned his head back. By the time the sun cut through the cracks in the upper hatch, he was gone. Leo stood. What now? I clicked a fresh mag into my AR. Now we burn a path. We came out of the archives into a city that looked like it hadn't slept either. Washington was bleeding. Fires still raged from broken buildings. Smoke curled around the monuments like ghosts. In the distance, the Washington Monument leaned ever so slightly. The base cracked like a tooth. We moved fast along 7th Street NW. The plan was to cut past Judiciary Square and down into the tunnels that led toward the metro. If we could reach L'Enfant Plaza, maybe we'd find a route south. But nothing in D.C. goes smooth. Zombies blocked every other street. Some walked, some ran. Some just stood in place, twitching, sniffing like they knew we were close. We ducked into a metro entrance by Archive Station. The stairwell reeked of mildew and rot. Trash was everywhere. Fast food wrappers, riot shields, spent flares. Blood smeared across the walls. Leo led the way. Lights are still working, he said. That's a bad sign, I replied. We made it to the platform, and that's when we heard the screech. Metal on metal, then the hum of power. A train, somehow still active, rolled into the station. Sparks spitting from undercarriage wheels. Doors opened, and 30 zombies spilled out. We didn't wait. I raised my rifle and opened fire. Tasha swung her axe like a machine. Leo flanked left and carved through a pair of sprinters with his blade. It was loud chaos, screams, screeches, bone crunching, blood spraying. The president even managed to ram one of them with his chained-up bulk, knocking it clean off the platform. We backed into the tunnel as the horde surged toward us. Go, go, I shouted. We sprinted down the rails, lights flickering overhead. The walls felt like they were closing in. Behind us, snarls echoed like a chorus of death. Tasha slipped once. I grabbed her arm and yanked her up. Don't stop. Up ahead, a side maintenance door. I kicked it open and we piled inside, slamming the lock shut behind us. Panting, dripping in sweat, covered in blood that wasn't all ours. The tunnel was tight, barely wide enough to move in single file. Leo took point. How far are we going? As far as it takes, I said. Tasha stayed behind me. We're not going to make it, are we? I didn't answer. We reached a rusted ladder leading up to another access grate. I climbed first, shoved the panel open. We came out onto Independence Avenue, right near the Hirshhorn Museum. It was crawling, but less dense than before. We darted behind a smoking sedan and caught our breath. I looked back toward the Capitol dome, now miles behind us. We keep moving, I said. But to where? Leo asked. I tightened my grip on the president's chain. Atlanta. Tasha raised a brow. What the hell is in Atlanta? Hope, I muttered. Or a graveyard. Either way, I'd rather die moving than rot in this city. We faded into the smoke. Guns low, eyes sharp. The war wasn't over, but we were still alive. And that meant something. DC is burning. Friends are dead. The mission's changed. Now it's survival. We're headed to Atlanta. One street, one bullet at a time. Part 1 is done. But the real nightmare's just getting started. Whispers Between Worlds, uploading daily.